All right, guys, so we're going to go on to 2.1, which is on the coordinate system. And graphing, basically. Okay? So you will probably need graph paper today for today's assignment, and there's graph paper on the toolbox in the back that you guys are welcome to. So, basically this coordinate system, here's your here's your XY plane. You guys should know that that's your X, and this is your Y, okay? These are your positive X values. These are your negative X values, positive Y values, negative Y values, okay? The coordinate system is broken into 4 quadrants. We call this quadrant 1.
Nevaeh Wheeler, please come to the main office at this time.
This is quadrant
Nevaeh
2.
Wheeler, please come to the main office at this time.
Quadrant 3. And quadrant 4. So they kind of go in not clockwise, so backwards, clockwise. What's that? Counterclockwise? Counterclockwise position. So quad 1, quad 2, quad 3, and quad 4. Okay. So yeah, that's really the plan, the system. When you are given an ordered pair, you will be given an ordered pair, X, Y. So if you plot them, like if I can give you 1, 2, you plot the 1 on the X and the Y on the 2. So we are going to, I'm going to pull in, give me a second because I cannot remember. How to change, oh, sorry, there it is. Okay, we're going to change over to grid paper so that we can graph pretty easily. And just sketch yours in your picture and it'll be great. So we're going to draw in our X coordinate as best we can, our Y coordinate as best we can. And I want to plot the points negative 2, 4. And I'm going to go through this really quickly because I figure you guys know how to plot points pretty quickly. So negative 2, you're going to go 2 on the X, so 2 this direction. And then you're going to go up 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to put a dot. Okay, so we went over negative 2, and then we went up 4 to put our dot there. Okay, and then that's the point. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's the system. So if I'm given an equation, for example, like y equals 2x plus 5, and I ask you to graph this, okay, you would graph by picking some x values, plugging them in, and seeing what you get for y. So we call that like building a table, okay? So if I plug in 0 for x, 2 times 0 plus 5 is 5. So when x is 0, y is 5, and that's an ordered pair 0, 5. If I plug in like 1, I have 2 times 1 plus 5. Well, that's 2 plus 5, which is 7. So 1 makes 7. If I plug in like negative 1, that would give me negative 2 plus 5, which is 3. So negative 1, 3. Okay? And then you would plot those in the coordinate system. So if this is my x and my y planes, 0, 5 is right here. And then we had 1, 7, which would be up here. And then we had negative 1, 3, which is right here. And then you connect them and draw a line. And that's how you graph by plotting points. Okay? You can also graph using a graphing calculator, and we will actually go through that when I get back. And we will do like a little worksheet with just using a graphing calculator. Remember, I told you guys that you guys need to get a calculator. I didn't stress it a lot at the beginning because I wasn't completely sure, but you do need a graphing calculator. We will not provide one for you. So I was just at Office Depot last night, and they have like a Casio version that's like $40. But it graphs for you. TIs are I think the best ones, but they are pretty expensive. Like a TI 84, I think is about $89 or $90. But I just saw a bunch of them on Facebook Marketplace. So check that out. Okay, you will probably need these before we get to the test because one of your test questions will be asking you to graph an equation using a graphing calculator. So make sure you do that, okay? So we're gonna kind of skip over that section in the book, and we're gonna move on to finding, and we're gonna go back to some normal paper at this point because I'm kind of tired of that. Finding x and y intercepts. So okay, so we know, or we should know, that a y-intercept is where x is 0. It's also where the line crosses the y-axis. So if x is 0, when we write y-intercepts, we write them as 0, comma, b. And we usually use b as a y-intercept. That's why in the equation y equals mx plus b, b stands for your y-intercept. So it's where it's crossing the y-axis. So if I tell you the y-intercept is like 0, 5, that would be right there on the graph. Okay, so it's where it's crossing the x or the y-intercept. So if that's what a y-intercept is, then the reverse of that is the x-intercept. And that's where y is 0. And it's also where the line crosses the x-axis. Okay, so these are going to look like some number. We're going to call it a, comma, 0. Okay, so these are going to be, if I tell you like my my x-intercept is like 2, 0, then that's going to cross right there. That's 2, 0. Okay, so it's where y equals 0. So if I want to find x/y intercepts, to find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equal 0. Because remember, for the y-intercept, x is 0. So you're going to let x equal 0, and then you're going to solve for y. And then to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equal 0. And then you're going to solve for x. So we are going to be given the equation y equals negative 3x minus 4. And we are going to find the x and the y intercepts. Okay. So if I want to find the x-intercept, I'm going to let y equal 0. So I have 0 equals negative 3x minus 4. And then I'm going to go through, I'm going to solve for x. So I add 4 to both sides. I get 4 equals negative 3x. Divide both sides by negative 3. So x equals negative 4 over 3. So I write this as an ordered pair. My x value is negative 4 over 3, and my y value is 0. So that's my x-intercept. So now I'm going to go through and find the y-intercept. So for the y-intercept, we're going to let, this time x is going to be 0, and we're going to solve for y. So the equation's still the same. Y equals negative 3x plus 4, or minus 4, I'm sorry. And I'm going to plug in 0 for x. So 3 times 0 is 0, and I get y equals negative 4. You always write your answers in ordered pairs, so x is 0 and y is negative 4. That's my y-intercept. It says then to sketch our graph, okay? So here's my xy plane. I know that my y-intercept is at 0, negative 4, so I'm going to come down here and plot a point at 0, negative 4. And I know my x-intercept was negative 4/3, 0. So negative 4/3 is a little over 1. So if here's negative 1, and this is negative 2, it's going to be like right in the middle. Okay? and then you're going to connect those using a line, and that's how you sketch the graph. All right, so now we're going to throw it back to geometry. Ooh, everyone loves geometry, and we're going to talk about the distance formula. So the distance formula is great if you are given like two locations and you want to find the distance between those 2 points. So to find the distance between 2 points, we're going to take d equal to the square root of x minus x squared plus y minus y squared. And you're going to be given 2x, oops, I'm sorry, I wrote xx, but I meant xy. You're going to be given 2 points and you're going to plug them in and solve. So, and the book will write it as like x2 minus x1, y2 minus y1. And I never write it like that because I just remember take 1x minus the other one, 1x or 1y minus the other one. And the order doesn't make a difference on those. So however you want to do that's fine. So the example we're going to do is to find the distance between -3, -1, and 2, 3. Okay? So my formula is the distance equals the square root of, we're going to take 1x minus the other one, so -3 minus 2 squared, plus we're going to take 1y minus the other y. We're going to square that. Okay? So then it's a lot of just math. So -3 minus 2 is -5 squared. -1 minus 3 is -4 squared. So -5 squared is 25. 4 squared is 16. 25 plus 16 is the square root of 41. Now we're finding distance here, okay? So I'm very adamant about the fact that like the square root of 41 doesn't mean anything to us when we're talking about the distance. If I ask you the distance between here and Kansas City, and you told me it was the square root of 41, that doesn't tell me how far it is. That doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to go ahead and take the square root of 41 and write that out. So approximately the square root of 41 is 6.4031. Okay? I want you to round to 2 decimal places. So if I'm rounding to 2 decimal places, that means I start at 3 and I look at that one. Since it's below 0 or below 5, I round down, so I have 6.40. And you can put units or however you want to do that, but that's how you find the distance. Okay? You will have an example in your homework today where it gives you like you're out running errands and you need to find the distance between like this grocery store and the gas station or whatever. And it'll say like one is east and then north and west and then south. Okay, when you're doing that, the north is up, south is down, west and east. So if I tell you I'm going like 3 blocks north and 2 blocks east, that means I'm 2 on the X and 3 on the Y. So I'd be right here, okay? If I tell you I'm going 5 south and 2 west, well, since south is the negative, that means my Y is a -5 and my 2 is in the west direction, so it's -2. So I'm going to go -2, -5, and that's down there, okay? So that's what you're looking at when you're doing ones with finding distance between locations. Next thing we're going to talk about is finding the midpoint. And I only have 2 more examples, so we're almost done. So midpoint again, throwing it back to lovely geometry. So the midpoint formula, you're basically averaging the location between 2 points. If I know that I've got a point up here and I've got a point down here and I want to find the midpoint, that means I want to find the middle. So I'm taking the 2 x values and I'm dividing it by 2. I'm taking the 2 y values and dividing that by 2. So it's x plus x divided by 2, y plus y divided by 2. Okay? So if I give you the ordered pairs 7, -2, and 9, 5, and I ask you to find the midpoint, you're just gonna apply this formula. And this formula is not like one that you absolutely need to memorize. Basically, if you wanna find the middle, you're finding you're averaging them. You wanna know where the average is meeting in the middle, so that's what we're doing here. So I'm gonna take 7 plus 9 and dividing it by 2, so that's my x plus x divided by 2. So 7 plus 9 is 16, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then I do the same thing with my y. So negative 2 plus 5 divided by 2 gives me 3 over 2. Well, that doesn't reduce down, so we're just leave it as 3 over 2. So then you always write your answers in ordered pair. The x value is 8, and the y value is 3/2. So the midpoint is located at 8 3/2. Okay, I'm looking over your homework right now, and I'm just making sure we covered everything that's on the homework. And I think we're good to go. If you need any help, just ask and wait and ask till Monday. But I think you guys should be good to go. Again, you are gonna have to graph a couple, so you're gonna need a piece of graph paper, and those are on the toolbox at the back. If you need anything immediately, feel free to email me. And the sub has my phone number, so if it's an emergency, call me. And I hope you guys have a really great weekend.